Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. It's wonderful to see so much support in this room for such an important event. My name is Tricia Lyons. I'm the director of the city's Public Facilities Department, and we're the department that's responsible for managing planning, design, and construction projects at city-owned buildings like schools and libraries, community centers, fire stations, police stations, and the like. We'll also be the department that will be responsible for leading the projects that will be subject to this executive order that the mayor is signing today. And you may or may not know that in Boston, our city-owned buildings account for nearly 3/4 of carbon emissions from local municipal operations. Today, we take a bold step forward in reducing those emissions. After Mayor Walsh signs today's executive order, all new municipal buildings will be targeting carbon neutral. That means our buildings will be designed to be highly energy efficient. They'll optimize on-site renewable energy. They'll prioritize fossil fuel-free combustion. And they'll also be designed to be resilient and adapted to a changing climate. We're taking these steps not only to meet the citywide goal of carbon neutrality, but also because zero net carbon buildings simply make sense. Zero net carbon buildings are a responsible use of taxpayer dollars because they pay for themselves over time. I'm extremely proud that our Public Facilities Department and our partners at the Environment Department are paving the way in addressing this global challenge right here in Boston. I take great pleasure in knowing that our municipally owned buildings will be at the forefront of this effort. And we have one man who's responsible for us being here today. Without his leadership on this issue, we would not be taking this giant leap forward in protecting our city and, frankly, our planet. It is because of him that Boston is a national and international leader in climate action. And it is my great honor to introduce the mayor of our great city, Martin J. Walsh.
Thank you, Trish, and thank you for that introduction. But honestly, it's a lot of you in this room, the advocates who have been fighting for years. Councilman Matt O'Malley. It's an honor to stand here and get the accolades like that. But this conversation on climate resiliency and change started a long time ago. And I know there are a lot of advocates in this room that have been in this fight for a long time. So thank you for your work and thank you for your consistent pressure on us. This is an exciting day here in the city of Boston. Since I've been mayor in 2014, climate resiliency has been a top priority of the administration. Working with other mayors from around the world, quite honestly, and understanding the importance of where we are as a society. I was just in Copenhagen a couple weeks ago with the C40 mayors from the C40, and it started out as 40 mayors from around the world that were talking about climate resiliency in different aspects around the world, we were involved in the Paris Accord. And when the president pulled out of Paris Accord, what happened in the United States of America, mayors from America got together and they created an organization called U.S. Climate Mayors. I'm one of the founding members. And we have over 400 mayors in that organization from around the country that have been part of a movement. And we have 49 states represented. So if you know anyone, I think it's North Dakota, we need a mayor in North Dakota to make it 50. But honestly, so in that conversation, and with C40, the international organization, I'm honored to serve as a steering committee advisory board member, where there's only a handful of us from the United States on that board. And when you get a chance to go to that meeting and see what other cities around the world are doing and where we are, I mean, we're far behind in a lot of cases in the United States of America, in most cases. But in Boston, we're ahead of other cities. So I want to thank everyone who made today possible. I do want to give Matt O'Malley a shout out, who's been working on these issues since he became a city councilor. I want to thank Chris Cook and Allison and Kat in the environmental department for the great work that they have done here in the city. I want to thank Trish and Pat Brophy and Paul and Evan and all the folks in public facilities, because this is about our public buildings and what we're doing. Most importantly, I want to give a shout out to the Boston Student Advisory Council that are here with us today. These young leaders helped us, with the community partners, help us develop this policy. And, you know, I was so impressed a few months ago, about a month ago, when the students took an action. And we had over 7,000 young people on City Hall Plaza fighting for the climate, fighting for the earth. The earth, quite honestly, that many of us as adults have added to the pollution and the bad air and sea level rise and the changes that we're seeing. And these young people, you are the leaders of the future. You know, many of you are in high school, I know that, and you're thinking, well, how can I make a difference? You're actually making a difference today. And you made a difference by the work you've done and the work you're going to continue to do, so I want to thank you for that. As much as some of the older folks in the room have done this work for a long time, there's a couple people in this room that were at a pipeline in West Roxbury and they got arrested at it, and I see them here. And they were fighting for that, and they're here today on a celebration. So again, I want to thank all of you. This executive order is probably the biggest, boldest step we've taken today. As Trish mentioned, it's going to require all new municipal buildings to achieve carbon neutrality. And when you think about that, over the last 40 years, there really weren't a lot of municipal buildings being built, but right now there are. We're building a lot. We're building libraries, and we're building police stations, and we're building firehouses, and we're remodeling, we're building new schools, and we're building a whole bunch of new buildings here in the city, and our capital plan reflects that. And to be able to do what we're doing here today is really, really important. All the buildings that we have are going to be held to a high standard of sustainability and energy efficiency. You know, I'm proud to say Boston's ranked the most energy efficient city in the United States of America, and we should celebrate that. But we also know there's so much more we have to do and could do to move forward. We're going even further. We've committed to becoming carbon neutral by 2050. When I was in Copenhagen, their goal is 2030. And I'm not ready to move our number down yet, but what we have to do is build up towards some really momentum here that we're getting here, and then we'll be able to have a conversation in a couple of years about moving that number. We're making historical investments and capital investments, as I mentioned earlier, in a lot of our public buildings. We want to make sure these buildings are highly efficient and will make a big dent in the total emissions moving forward, something that is important. This executive order also starts to set the tone for the private sector. We're working with private building owners and large institutions in cutting emissions in their existing buildings. We're working with our hospitals and our universities as they build new dorms and they build new buildings, and our hospitals as they think about the future for them as well. In the coming years, we're going to be issuing a new carbon performance standard for all new private buildings as well. So we're going to be changing the way we do things, and I know that people are worried about it, but you know, all you have to do is go visit a country in Europe, one of the countries, and see what they're doing there. It's amazing stuff that they're doing, and it hasn't stopped development, and it hasn't stopped building, and it hasn't stopped anything. It's continued to move forward. So we're going to continue to educate people. I think that's one of the biggest things we have to do. We need to make sure that government is not just talking about it, but taking the lead. All over the city, landowners are raising up to the challenge. Last week, Boston University, we had this groundbreaking of their new Center for Computing and Data Science. It's a 19-story building with 100% renewable energy. And President Bob Brown is very excited about that and what he's doing there. They're actually driving the piles right now, and it's a little bit of different construction that they're doing, preparing for the future. It's going to be the most energy-efficient large building in Boston's history, and Boston University is leading the way. So as we know, big change is possible, and it's already happening. We're also showing how much there is to be gained by building highly efficient buildings. Not only are they vital importance to our fight against climate change, but they also have a low cost and low energy costs going forward. So it's something that is important. What we're doing here needs to make us less resilient on fossil fuels and more resilient in the face of storms and power outages. We have to do that. We have to continue to move forward. So I know a lot of people are going to be speaking here today. Recently, we built several new energy-efficient schools as well the Dearborn School in Roxbury, the Elliott School in the North End are some of the more beautiful modern buildings that we have, and we're thinking about as we continue to do that. This executive order will have big impacts on our schools, meaning that more Boston Public School students will get to see the power of sustainability firsthand. So as the building is being built, as it's being designed, young people are going to be part of the conversation, understanding how that works, and that's something that is really important. Students will grow up knowing that change is possible. The one thing I do want to say that is not part of my notes before I wrap up, I think we have to do more education to people in the public as well. I don't think enough people understand. I know that we do and you do, the advocates and the young people do, but I think when we do not our protests, but when we do our demonstrations, I think when you go home and you talk to people and you're talking to your friends and their friends' parents, we need to explain what this is all about. Because not everyone is in this conversation. They kind of understand, but they understand what sea level rise is, and they understand when a storm like Sandy hits New York City, or a storm hits Houston, or one of those storms, but they need to understand what we're trying to do here and the impacts of what we're doing here in Boston, in this country. So I'd ask the young people and some of the folks that have been in this space for a long time, get outside your comfort level. Go to the other circles, talk to other people, explain to people what's going on, because not everyone understands it. It's something that I think is really important for us. Climate action is one of the most powerful investments we can make in our community today and in the future. Sustainability is a value that's embedded into everything we do as a city. This executive order is that next big step. Again, I want to thank the city departments. I want to thank public facilities, the environment department for working on this. I want to thank all the other city departments who are invested in this as well. Thank you, to end with this, our community partners. Boston Climate Action Network, all the different organizations, thank you. Mothers Out Front, thank you. Without your advocacy, and quite honestly, just staying on top of not just us here in the city, but the government, we wouldn't be as far along as we have been. So to all the advocates in the room, this is a happy day. We can celebrate it for as long as I put the ink on the paper, and then we have to go to work and do our work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd now like to introduce Aria Elias, who is the former Vice President of the Boston Student Advisory Council, or BSAC. Now in her freshman year at Suffolk University, Aria and the other members of BSAC have been tireless in their work supporting the development of the Climate Action Update and in the greening of Boston public schools. So Aria, if you'd like to speak to that.
Wow, a lot of people here. I'm excited about that. Okay. Good morning, everyone. As said before, I'm Aria Elias. I'm a 2019 graduate of Boston Latin Academy, a current first-year student at Suffolk University, and a BSAC alumna. And on the behalf of the Boston Student Advisory Council and Youth on Board, Jenny, I would like to thank everyone involved in bringing us together today. Over the past year or so, BSAC has been motivating thousands of young people to support immediate climate action. Not only due to the extreme weather changes within the past few years, or even today, it was 60 degrees yesterday and now it's snowing, but due to the intersectional issues that connect the environmental justice movement. With that in mind, we have been involved and invested in developing the new Climate Action Plan. BSAC has been advocating for more energy efficient and solar panels in our schools, and we're very excited about the generations upon generations of future students at BPS that will benefit from net zero buildings. This executive order expresses that City Hall is listening to the neighborhoods, the families, and especially the young people of Boston. Thank you for all of the organizations and environmental justice advocates involved in making the plan, the young people standing in front of me involved in the work every single day, and thank you for making this very important move with Mayor Walsh in signing the Boston Climate Action Plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aria, for both your words and your actions. And next, I'd like to invite up to the podium, as Mayor Walsh said, another staunch advocate for this initiative, City Councilor Matt O'Malley.
Good morning, friends. It is great to be with all of you. You know, it's easy to say the right things as it relates to climate policy, and it's a heck of a lot harder to actually do the right things. And that's why I am so incredibly proud of our mayor and his team for, again, leading the way. And this isn't just one-off. You know, I was thinking as I was sort of preparing what I was going to say, we sat here with Mothers Out Front signing the gas leaks ordinance 4 years ago. The year after that, we did the plastic bag ban. We're doing this. The mayor has done remarkable things as it relates to getting to zero waste, as it relates to better infrastructure. A very wise man, a friend to many of us once said, let's make Beantown Greentown. Well, this guy's actually doing it. So one more round of applause for our mayor, Marty Walsh. And to our young people here, thank you for what you do. I don't know if you saw this yet, but this morning Time Magazine announced their Person of the Year. And I was sort of bracing that it may be that orange Cheeto in Washington. It wasn't. It was Greta Thunberg was named Person of the Year, and under her title, it said the power of youth. And you all are changing the world, not only on issues around climate, on issues around gun control, on issues around safety, on issues around equity and intersectionality. You guys are making this a better planet for all of us. We owe you, and we're ready for you guys to continue to lead. So thank you to the young people for being here, for their incredible work. I hesitate to start listing names because I'm sure I'll leave someone out, but bear with me anyway. The Boston Clean Energy Coalition, the BCEC, the group that was formed for, among many reasons, to focus on getting to net zero carbon construction. This day would not have happened but for you. Ania Camargo with Mothers Out Front, Andy Bean with BCAN, Carol Oldham with MCAN, Michelle Brooks with the Sierra Club, Meredith Elbaum with the USGBC, Mark Sandine, Mass Solar, Chris Schaffner, Green Engineer, and two of our friends from Cambridge, Seth Federspiel and Henrietta Davis. Congratulations. It was these people who came together with me, Ricky Harvey as well, who's not here, but has been a great leader in this fight. We had a number of working sessions. We had as ecumenical a process as possible where we, brought in folks from the real estate industry, legal, academics, environmentalists to figure out how we could get to net zero carbon construction and what that means. You all know the statistics, and the mayor's absolutely right. We need to make sure that people outside of our group know this, that 2/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions come from buildings. We have an opportunity now to address that, and as a coastal city, we are uniquely situated to not only lead, but we have to do this to combat the negative effects of climate change. Now, I always say anytime I speak about anything environmentally related is every fiscal conservative ought to be an environmentalist as well, because what we've seen with net zero carbon buildings, they typically pay for themselves within 2 years, 3 years, 5 years at the latest. There's an all net zero carbon school in Lexington. It's called the Hastings Elementary School. They net zero carbon construction, they generate an extra 250,000 kilowatt hours every year. So it literally turns a profit for the town of Lexington as well. It's a remarkable thing. This is a really important step. Mayor, Chief Cook, Commissioner Lyons, you guys have done some great work here, and I'm just so glad to be with all of you. So congratulations.
And now the moment we've all been waiting for. I'd like to invite the mayor up to the table for the signing. Absolutely. Come on. Mayor has asked that all the kids from BSAC come and join him at the table, please. And that concludes our program. Thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, we'll...
From the press?
Is this just new buildings, or is it existing municipal buildings as well?
Right now, it's new buildings. The Climate Action Plan anticipates upgrading existing city buildings, but this initiative starts with new.
I'm just wondering, with the old buildings, is that going to be tough because they're so old?
It is. It's challenging to retrofit existing buildings to meet this. And we are doing sort of deep energy savings projects through our Renew Boston Trust program. Schools and fire stations and libraries. So we're making progress. We are definitely making progress.
Curious about embodied carbon and if that's being considered in this work for construction.
Dennis, thanks. It's a great question. So the quick answer is no. But we're starting to develop, our methodologies for determining how to take that into account, and it's a great goal. But in a few years, maybe we'll be back and include that in the executive order that the mayor has. But thank you.
And this is constantly evolving. We are going to continue to branch out. City Council is voting on something today, the Wetlands Ordinance, that we're working on. And so I think this is truly a collaboration. And to some degree, we're going to need help from the state government as well as the federal government on some things. So we're kind of battling this, if you will, on all fronts. Our Resilient Boston Harbor Plan is something that's important as well. Obviously, that's kind of responding to the sea level rise. We want to get ahead of it, and I think as much as we can get ahead of it, I think this allows us to get ahead a little more today. So we're going to constantly moving on this. And if you look at our environmental department, and even the budget reflects it, the growth of that office and the integration of that office into every other aspect of city government, where in the past the environmental office was in the environmental office and they kind of were in their silo. Now in cabinet, they're integrated into the police and the fire and thinking about new designs and new buildings and ways of taking care of our own city employees and how do we move forward. So we're looking at all that stuff. Thank you. All right. Let me just thank everyone for coming. I want to thank the press, as I always try to do, for covering today. Today is an important conversation, important day. And to the advocates, I didn't mention every group as Matt did, but thank you for what you do. Honestly, I know that sometimes it's a long, slow, steady move, and I think that we want to continue this, get the momentum moving even in a faster way. So thank you very much. Nice job.